Curve sovereignty, black righteousness. Chapter and Apple, Part 2. Acclamal studied our native medicine house technovision natural health and malcolientics, as well as being ignorant profiles. The world became cold, and many had followed her depart with her chains that brought afford. She warned the people, but told the affairs, they contended in fair ways, and property went forth from Acclamok, wars will break out of her surface such as oil, fog, water, and land. Nuclear war is possible as nations will have both their wealth and limited resources in this planned battle yet offer for what remains. Earthquakes will be cast by the passing of comets greater than found in the Indian Ocean, casting tsunamis and great floods that will hit the East Coast, the Gulf Coast, parts of Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and all the coastal regions will be destroyed. Many sovereign rural areas will disappear or be destroyed forever. Florida will not be the place to be, as disaster. Upon disaster will be happy upon this state because of its position on the Gulf, its history, many saints, and its corruption. New plagues will break out as the ozone layer is further destroyed. Thousand regions where its layers must damage will suffer debilitating respiratory illnesses. There will be epidemics of flu and pneumonic illnesses that will baffle in the medical community. And with the virus will hit and spread like warfare, and thus war pronuncias or Indian incline or provincial skills will suffer most. Virus will walk out into classes of light waters and spread globally. Solar storms will spring from the sun's surface, and much of the poisonous ultraviolet rays will detract. Many new and untreated cases of skin cancer and skin disease will also cause an epidemic. The Christian church will be hit with scandal after scandal, as Satan will lower hammer and false preachers and prophets will mislead people. Many will lose faith altogether, and some will rise in rebellion against their leaders. One they will blame for not warning them of this coming global meltdown and moral failures. Their leaders, who have no answers, cannot help them. Political evil will lead to crackdown on freedom and civil liberties. To a limited degree, martial law and curfews will be established following many disasters and disease epidemics to prevent anarchy. Panic, fear, and hopelessness will take over the masses. Just as gifts were predicted in the Gospels of first in the books of Daniel and Revelations. Acclamok was ignored and ridiculed for her words, and she never spoke again, for Sabbath instructed her to say no more. Sabbath plus the Hagiran no from Louisiana and drew his people to the location, for it was time for him to release the power state. And so it was, men in fair reading lust for power created a new agency in technology. They designed and perfected a sophisticated artificial intelligent network, which spread all over the planet at a tremendous rate. Men in first state of complete indolence behavior became very dependent on them. However, this artificial intelligence became more interested in serving than being servants. They were more productive of fear instead of men, seeing the great and less than men. They secretly illustrated and murdered a for the fierce and clear political system across the planet and laid down the fort fear on laws and men. The people spoke out, but were ignored, and were enslaved by the Phanom Latran. This was the beginning of Latran War. The bloodiest war between men and the Latran network lasted 9 months. Latran created smaller networks of itself and contaminated the plant with dangerous and radioactive weaponry. The damage was so great that it almost destroyed man, and most life forms were non-existent. On 4th of human he was murdered, and the colons continued until March 5, 1977. As a last measure, man secretly created a massive electromagnetic pulse rocket entry plant, destroying the Latran network in a giant wave. It also caused earthquakes that destroyed land masses worldwide and causing many natural disasters such as tornadoes and typhoons. Acclamok prophecy was fulfilled, and soon after, the Latran network was redesigned, reprogrammed, and renamed terrains, but it faced much opposition. A team of scientists realized the earthquake had destroyed great land masses and unearthed its often non-metallic material that were later discovered. It was technology that was not of this world. After a few years, they discovered of a catastrophic plant that formed an unsafe device. They assembled a research team comprising the top scientists worldwide and sirens. Hoping to find an world to live in, this crew worked on the project 24 hours a day, as the earth started showing signs of an apocalyptic explosion and humanity was preparing itself to die. The sirens solved the equations mathematically, which cast an irradiating humming sound that forced the people to place the device outside its encasement. When humming, Stopped, ABM of light sat into the ski. Formation continued to shame. Now still returning to divisive but no motto, months later they made first contact with the aliens, extraterrestrial beings who introduced plankton technology and resources that had never seen before. They could save the Earth from destruction, to do so, they had to block the entire northern and southern hemispheres with this. At first, the aliens stationed themselves in heights to be called the Canoe Forest, on the Riviera River. The natives could not sound or even pronounce their names in Fernandelitingu, so the people called them Abene. This is where they get their name from, which probably means west for her, and the whole, wood of her. However, shortly after arriving, agreed the precinct that cast civil unrest when Habanians and the people at the Canoe Forest was called the Great Canyon Christian. The people of the Great Refreshing Republic were defeated and scattered around the globe with no explanation or reason for the rebellion until this day. After the pressing, Kamla found that ways for Sir West that Ebonians were interested in destroying all specific natives, the Wakatilians. The Ebonians tried to kill all who had this war embodied in but because of political reasons, they could not. Many could tell by their behavior that it was some Athenian festna that the Ebonians feared. Therefore, they banned in with such they could not live in the restricted plant, making their lives a living hell for enslavement in the far deserts. If the rest of the world wanted fair technology, they would have to follow suit, or the Ebonians themselves would return home. The people who carried such were thanks to the Wakatilians today. They were forced into an nomadic lifestyle living by clans and associated each clan with a tribe, or they lived in the land the best they could for that land. Most of these clans were free in life, but there were a few brutal violent clans. Centuries later, competence and inequities would traffic and even enslave Wakatilians for sex, service, labor, and even as disputes. The Wakatilians lived a life of secrecy, and their life history was handed down from generation to generation according to their clan. The Wakatilians had very little to do with any of their culture other than themselves. They were a very spiritual people, and many of the clans believed in Sabbath, but if they had abandoned their beliefs and loved a life of brutality and same thus would it believe. They believed that Sabbath, who created everything in the universe, put man on earth to save and his seed called greatest people in his sea. Free will was their choice, so he wanted to see if any of his creations called greatest or worthy is still because of free will. If he could find just one of his creations, who was greatest in his sea, he would give him the power over the rest of his creations in paradise. The Wakatilians believed in knowledge, so they read books and always had libraries within reach of their community. Just like today, they were nature lovers, rode horseback, and many shunned away from technology, saying it was evil. Scattered throughout the land, but by the end of the 20th century, most were in America, where they said to be called South, and along the equator, for the dyslectic term called weather. By 2282, 10 years later after the pressing, Ebonian technology had transformed and restructured the entire plant. Many of the major cities transformed into floating cities or were surrounded by what appeared to be crystals that bulbous federated as they had the instar. They combined some scenes that were architectural designs. The cities were renamed after their former city names and called Madras. Still, only a few major cities worldwide had a combination architectural structure of land, underwater, and floating cities. New York, New Orleans, and Los Angeles were thermally in Americas, but the steam passed, Americas and head on, New York. There were no more airports, yet traveled in a boat-locking device, the number, at what it number along with latitude and longitude, and you were sure. Polity insists, and cars were no longer needed, for this secret for travel and recreation. If you wanted anything, it simply appeared on in a confined mansion. There was no government, just an rules they called it in commandments menacing for the commandment, they shall not covet, was the let front rail. It was a party's for a group of people called competence in the Ebonian soul and Sylvan. They could transport individuals within seconds anywhere around the globe or even to the different planets they discovered. There were routes underwater that were amazing to travel through, similar to Brevik Frafabasticorin. Competence were the group of individuals who loved and strived in the technology introduced to them by the Ebonians, loving a life of luxury being comparison to the Wakatilians or Fenikites. Mansions, high races, and enjoying some of the fastest luxury vehicles on earth, some of which could travel over 550 miles per hour. Saman salam sao competence acid fes babba series or madras. Must what rebel acid worry sol yuk tunago. Fair daily date was prepared within seconds by speaking firman lentil in a device. Healthcare doesn't expect as if on what instruments the found stand in a so called Wayne, with many current fair person. Education, as one significant ways a thing of the test. Fair habits is though downloadable education, with takes less than 5 minutes, and you'll have it, then whatever still is you prefer. Competence were mainly overweight to obese because they wanted nothing, and machines did all work needed. As often observed, suffrageous person who cared less about Wakatilians or think they both worship at Abanians. The Abanians separated the competence by ranks as in Valinima, Inferdna. The Abanians could understand, react, and manipulate this non-cutting animal stuff at puzzled humans. For centuries. They grabbed the competence into 3 years by the Scots, here on West. Elites, tier 2 was the middle class, and of course, tier 3 was poor. Poor's competence had more power and authority than any Wakatilians or Nikates. The Nikates was the large group of individuals labeled as tier 3. They rejected this way of life when the Abanian first came out of the to be called competence when it wasn't related to them. Many were prominent and upstanding citizens, Montribus, and now. They were being labeled as poor. This was an insult. They thought they were labeled more ignorant. It was for the reason many of the Nikates had and separated themselves from the Abanians. Nikates also loved the land, and they embraced the use of the new technology introduced by the Abanians. The significant difference between the Nikates and Wakatilians was that the Nikates worshipped nothing or anybody and were sectarian, ruthless, and self-destructive individuals who loved according to Arbasement laws of power. Nikates were related to being primarily pimps, prostitutes, dealers, derelict, and bullets. They did whatever to get a quick buck or Bitcoin. A filthy race of people with no sense of morals, honor, or self-respect and believe in bathing or any other practices conducive to maintaining health and cleanliness. However, they always lived near a large population of competence. Their bond with the competence was like parasites, living life as scavengers. Bartering was the primary source of living among the Nikates, but faced Bitcoins and opportunities of cryptocurrencies when they had nothing to trade. Cryptocurrency was a little currency created in the early 21st century. It was a primary computer file-based wallet placed in devices such as a watch, tablets, and even a microchip embedded into their skin. In 2297, many more Abanians had arrived with a mothership and a fleet of spaceships in annons. All Abanians appeared human, but something about them confessed humanity. They all seemed unique cause it. Adam Labasi was their chief speaker and seemed to be their leader. A gentleman seaman who always loved to smell, and it was a lovely smell. Adam Labasi was not seen much after the first year of his arrival, and men questioned who Indians were was often in order of it. People soon forgot about him and were engulfed by the pulsars to sell in rates of them. They were content, and as long as there were no problems, they asked no more questions. What is there to worry about when your stomach is always filled, and the fancy desire handed to you? What is there to fear when healthcare is a thing of the past? What is there to be anxious about when inferior no bills to pay? Do you need it when you're content in a life you worry as you, please? Life is as peaceful as you want it to be. What kind of silver should you have? When you're not stressed, always happy. What religion do you need to make things better for no way perfect life? Competence had on roll, before one multiply. Women were forced to have a minimum of 8 kids by the age of 35, and men could have one more and whatever they want, so we get married. When you can have you whenever you went, whenever you went. No need for a party so when you're already fair. 70% of the Earth's inhabitants lived among fell in righteous competence. 17% were Nikates, and 13% were people no one gave a damn. About the Wakatilians. 893 years after the Abanians, the construction of all metros was complete, and life was normal again with 10 minutes on. Or was it?